Good morning, everyone. This is Ben Weisner, your host and presenter. Thank you for joining me for our webinar, New Read Live Features Overview. I'm a senior member of the Read Live team, and my job is to educate and support teachers and administrators who are using our programs. This morning, I'm going to provide you with an overview of the new updates and features we've added to Read Live in the past few months. We're always hard at work ensuring Read Live is the best tool teachers have to help their struggling students become better readers. We'll also give you a peek into some of the improvements and updates we're considering for the coming school year and take your suggestions for features and programs you'd like to see to make Read Live even better for all of you. Just a note, this presentation is primarily geared towards those who are familiar with Read Live or want to be informed about the newest updates and changes we've made and will make to the program. If you're just looking for an introduction to Read Live and how to use it with your students, especially now at the beginning of the school year, this presentation may not meet your needs. We have several recorded webinars and videos on our Read Live help page at readnaturally.com, or contact me via email to set up a private webinar for your team. You can also just email me your specific questions. I may not be able to get to all of your questions during this webinar, but I'll point you to some useful resources on the website, and I'll follow up with you on your remaining questions after the webinar ends. Many of you have asked about a recording of this webinar. I'll be sending out a follow-up email with links to the recording and resources in about 24 hours, so look for that in your inbox tomorrow. Feel free to share the recording with anyone at your school or district who you think would benefit from this valuable information. Also, at the end of our session, you'll be asked to provide us with feedback about today's webinar via a short survey. If you could, please respond to the survey so we can continue to improve the webinar experience for all of you in the future. Finally, if you're having technical difficulties, please contact GoToWebinar support. Their phone number is listed at the bottom of the meeting panel. And I do want to mention one more thing, as people are asking me about that now. Where are the handouts? For this presentation, there will not be any handouts. This presentation is primarily a demonstration of the new features. I will point you to an article on our website that discusses the new features and where you can find more information about them. But I do not have a handout for you to print out. Okay, moving forward. So just a reminder that within the Read Live platform, students will have access to 4 programs: Read Naturally Live, Word Warm-Ups Live, 1-Minute Reader Live, and Read Naturally Live Espanol. The new features that I'll be talking about today will impact all of these programs, and new features that are coming up will also impact some of these programs as well. So, what are the new features and enhancements that we've added over the summer? Number 1, the team feature has been extended to include the teacher role. Last year, we added the team feature to give lead teachers a way to share distance learning responsibilities with Read Live assistants. We've expanded this functionality so lead teachers can now add other teachers to their team as well. Teachers that have been added to a team will be able to see students on the waiting list of the lead teacher, as well as on their own Read Live and Read Naturally Live Espanol pages. They will have the ability to change story options and adjust levels and goals of the students within the team that they've been added. However, the lead teacher is still the only teacher that can manage the licensing and program access for their students. By the way, I will be demonstrating all of these features for you, so it will make them more concrete for you. Spelling Step has been added to the Read Naturally Live Phonics series. Students working in Read Naturally Live Phonics will now be presented with a spelling challenge before advancing to the pass step. This new step gives students valuable practice in coding words that use the phonics patterns taught in the current story. Student responses will be included under a new section in the story details report. This is the same spelling step that is used during the word list exercises in Word Warm-Ups Live. There is now a new student navigation menu. Students are now able to switch easily between Read Live programs. We've added this menu to the student module to enable students to select from a list of programs to which they've been given access. Hot timing recording is now more easily accessed by students so that when they get to the practice step before the pass step, they can click the next button without having to practice before accessing the recording feature. And again, I will demonstrate that for you so it becomes more concrete in terms of what I'm talking about. Read Naturally Live story options now allow you to assign one fixed speed to any number of required read-alongs. For example, a student can be assigned 4 read-alongs, all of which can be played at the same expressive speed. This widely requested feature enables even more flexibility to support your students' needs. And then finally, we've made some enhancements to 1 Minute Reader Live. We've added a couple of books, so now there are 6 books per level. And printing is now enabled so that you can print 1 Minute Reader Live stories. Also, in the quick quiz in 1 Minute Reader Live, when a student answers a question incorrectly on a previous attempt, that attempt is shown to the student again in red. That change helps avoid confusion when students are presented with a previously missed question. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over to my demonstration and I'll show you what I mean by all of these new changes. So I'm going to flip to my demo. And the first thing that I'll talk about is show you how the new team function works. So I'm going to log in first as a teacher in my sample account. And go to my home page. And as you can see in my waiting list, I have 4 students in a waiting state. And I'm going to log in as a different teacher in a different screen. And this teacher, as you can see, has no students in their waiting list. But both teachers can set up a team. So for my first teacher, I'm going to click on the team tile. And what will appear are any assistants, Read Live assistants or teachers in my school. And I can add any of them to my team. So you can see I already have a teacher assistant, parent assistant on my team. And I'm going to add that other teacher that I showed you earlier, David Higgins, who is in my school. I'll click on the checkbox next to his name. I'll click Done Editing Team. I'll refresh my screen here. And now in David's home screen, he now also shows that there are 4 students on the waiting list. So he has the same students on his waiting list as the lead teacher, Joe Teacher. I can remove David from the team at any time. And refreshing the list shows me that all of those students are now removed. The other thing that can happen with a team, I'll add David back in again. Actually, before I do that, I want to show you in David's list of Read Naturally Live students, oops, refresh the list. Oh, sorry about that. 1 second, let me remove him from the team before I do that. I'll go back and refresh the list. There we go. So we're back to the original state. Joe Teacher has 4 students on the waiting list. David Higgins has 0 students on his waiting list. Also, David Higgins only has 4 students in his list of Read Naturally Live students. So these are the only 4 students that he can place, that he can run reports on, etc. But once I add David Higgins to the lead teacher's team, Joe Teacher, so I've added him again. Now when I refresh the list, I have access, or David Higgins has access to all of the students for the lead teacher's team. So any teacher on a lead teacher's team can not only see the same students on the waiting list, but they can also work with the lead teacher to place students, to run reports against those same students, etc. So the power of this new feature allows a lead teacher to work with a group of teachers to perform a variety of tasks which were limited in the past. That's probably the simplest way to put it. The other thing that I just want to remind people of, when an assistant logs in and they are on a team, so let me log in as an assistant. They do not log into the staff module, but instead they're taken to basically an overview, basically a staff training screen where they can view videos or read additional resources like how to conduct a 1-minute timing, etc. But the first link in the resources list includes access to the lead teacher's waiting list. The assistant can also access it from this drop-down menu. But when an assistant has been added to a team, their primary ability is to work with students in the waiting list. So they can log in as a student to conduct remote timings, they can listen to recordings, they can view current story details, but they cannot do placement or run reports, etc. Okay. I'll come back to this feature about teams when I log in as an administrator as well. Okay, let's talk about another feature that we recently added, and that can be found in story options. So I'll go to my Read Naturally Live list of students. And story options allows a teacher to adjust particular options for a student when they're working within a story. So they can turn on or off certain steps. They can adjust the amount of time that students have to complete the retell or the prediction. But let's take a look at a new feature. So I'm going to let's choose Bernice. I'll click on her, on the checkbox next to her name. I'll click Change Story Options for Selected. And there's a couple of features I want to point your attention to. One is enable recording features. And I'll come back to this when we talk about the new faster access to recording that students have during the past timing. But you can now granularly allow students or disallow students to record themselves for the past timing. The default is on. But the other thing that we've added, as I mentioned earlier, is that you can change the speed of the read along. So by default, students have 3 read alongs and the speed is set to auto. And auto means that students read progressively faster, or the narrator reads progressively faster, their rate is faster, and they are reading more expressively after each read along. But we can now change auto to any one of the 3 speeds or rates that the narrator is reading at. So for example, if you want all 3 read-alongs to be read at the expressive rate, you can do that. That may be helpful for some students, maybe who are older. Or if you want all read-alongs to be read at a very slow rate, you can do that as well. So again, auto is the default, and that increases the rate after each read-along, but you can also select the read-along rate for all of the read-alongs that you have required, and that can be up to 5. So that was story options. I'll cancel that. And then the other thing I want to point out to you is if we go to the 1-minute reader live screen, you now have the ability to print stories, so which you didn't have before. So you can simply select the level, the book, and either print all of the stories in that book or individual stories. And that simply comes up as a PDF file. The other thing that you can do now that you weren't able to do before with 1-minute reader live students is in the change story options screen, you can select which levels are available for a student. By default, all the levels are on, but if you want to restrict access to just a certain number of levels, you can do that here. The other thing that you can do in the story options is change the number of required read-alongs. The default is 1, and the number of required practices, the default is 2. But this is the new change, adjusting which level students are have access to. And then one final thing that's new is in the story details report. Because we've added more functionality and capability in the team function to allow you to have multiple teachers be able to work with students. In the story details report in Read Naturally Live and Read Naturally Live Espanol, when you open up a story details report, it will show you which assistant or teacher did the final hot timing. So this shows me that even though I'm the lead teacher, hot timing was performed in this case by a parent assistant. That lets me kind of keep track of a little bit better track of who's doing timings. Okay, I'm going to log out as this teacher, and I'm going to log in as the account administrator, and I'll show you a couple of other things that we've added recently. So under the account and school administration tile, when you're logged in as the account administrator, and obviously this will only pertain to a small percentage of you, but for those that it does pertain to, it is very important. Number 1 is you are now able to, again, either enable or disable the recording features that appear during the past timing. The default is turned on. But if you don't want to give students access to record themselves, the account administrator can turn it off for all students in that account. The other thing I'll point out to you is this enable Google login. So if you're using Google for education, you do have the ability to create a single sign-on option for students by selecting this option and then importing student records according to our specifications, which you can find under this little eye icon. It'll give you more information about how to set up Google login. But I also want to mention, and I'll go into this in a little bit more detail, that in the coming months, we are going to be adding additional single sign-on options. So for those of you that are using ClassLink at your school or district, or Clever at your school or district, we will be allowing you to connect Read Live to not only Google login, but also to ClassLink and Clever. And I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. And finally, as the administrator, under staff member administration, you do have the option of working with creating or editing any team of any teacher in the account. So if I wanted to go in to the teacher that I was working with earlier, Joe Teacher, I can click on the team button here and I can manage Joe's team. I can turn on or off access for different teachers in Joe Teacher's team. So that capability is available for both account administrators and school coordinators. Okay, let's take a look at some of the features that students now have access to. And primarily I'm going to be talking about, at least initially, about the new spelling step. So I'm going to log in as a student who is in a phonics story. So I'll click on the interesting insects story in Read Naturally Live.
You've finished all your practices. Click Start Timing to practice again, or click Next to continue.
So this student has completed all the steps up through word list. So they've done all the practices for word list, and as you can see in the progress bar, spelling is the next step. So that did not exist before until our latest update. I'll click Next.
Click the speaker icon to hear a spelling word. Then type the word and click Show Me to see the correct spelling.
So the way the spelling step works is students click on the speaker icon to hear the word and a sentence.
Inside. Let's go inside to get out of the rain. Inside.
So listening to that word, which would have been a word in the word list that they just worked with previously, they will have to type the word and then click Show Me.
Compare your word to the correct answer. Fix your word if it doesn't match. Then click Check.
So they compare the word to the word that they just spelled and then click Check.
Click Next to continue.
And a star will indicate that the student's initial spelling try, when she'd only heard the word, was correct and that she did not change the spelling. I'll click Next. Click the speaker icon again.
Twist. The baby tried to twist away from his mom. Twist.
And now I will spell it incorrectly. I'll see the word and correct it.
Click Next to continue.
And a green check mark indicates that her initial try based on the audio of the word was wrong, but that she corrected the word successfully after seeing the correct spelling above it.
Things. What things did you bring to school today? Things.
And this time I'll spell it incorrectly again, but I won't correct it, or I'll make an incorrect correction.
Compare your word to the correct answer again. Fix the letters that are different or missing. Then click Check.
And if I continue to not make the corrections.
Compare your word to the correct answer again. Fix the letters that are different or missing. Then click Check.
I still get a few tries.
Click Next to continue. Now you're ready to pass. Read the story and play Wordtastic until your teacher comes to pass you on this story. Click Start Timing and begin reading.
And after I've completed the spelling step, which consists of 3 words from the word list, I'll click Next, and then I'm at the Ready to Pass screen, Conduct Pass Activity screen. So that's how spelling works, and again, you will be able to see how the student performed in the story details report, which words they got correct and incorrect. Okay, so I'm going to log out as this student, and I'm going to log in as a different student and show you the recording function. And I'm getting questions about whether the recording function that I'm about to demo is available on iPads. And at this time, the recording feature is not available, does not work on iPads. So I'm going to log in as a student, different student. I'll go to my Read Naturally Live story.
Now you're ready to pass. Read the story and play Wordtastic until your teacher comes to pass you on this story. Click Start Timing and begin reading.
So for the recording access, in the past, students would have had to have done a practice read first. The next button would not have been available for them to move to the recording function until they had done at least one practice read. But at this point, with our new update, students can move to the recording function right away. They do not have to do a practice read first, although they certainly can. But in this case, all I have to do to go to the recording feature is just click Next at the screen.
Click Start Recording to record yourself reading the story. Click Finished if you finish reading before the bell sounds. If you don't want to record yourself, click Next to continue.
And at this stage, I can click on Start Recording. If I do decide to record myself doing a reading, once the recording is complete, once the timing is complete, the recording is saved, and then the teacher sees that a recording is available in the word list screen. But I am not going to record myself. I don't want to record myself at this time, so I'll click Next.
Play Wordtastic while you wait for your teacher. Click the best answer to score points. Click on the words you don't know to hear them read to you.
And if I want to play Wordtastic at this point, I can. So the steps in the Conduct Pass Activities, or the screens in the Conduct Pass Activities display, begin with the practice step. If you want to practice, go ahead. Otherwise, click Next. Then you go to Recording. If you want to record yourself, great, do that. Otherwise, click Next, and you move to the Wordtastic screen. Okay, I hope that's clear. The next thing I want to point out to you is the navigation menu. I mentioned earlier, students can move to any of the programs that they've been assigned access to, and they can see that in what we call, often internally anyway, the hamburger menu. It's basically 3 lines in the upper left-hand corner that typically denotes a menu option. So if I want to move to 1 Minute Reader Live, which I do because I want to show you something there,
Please select a story.
I can quickly move into that screen, into that program. So in 1 Minute Reader Live, what I want to do actually is go to a different
Please select
row.
a book.
Let's see here. Unfortunately, for some reason, I've popped into the wrong student here. I did want to show you, although for the sake of time, I'm not going to be able to show that to you now. When a student misses a quiz question, when it's brought back to them to re-answer during the quick quiz, that incorrect answer that they answered previously will be highlighted in red. So I'm not going to be able to show that to you right now, but that's something that is a new function, new feature in the latest update. So I'm going to log out. Again, for the sake of time, I do want to spend a little bit of time previewing or showing you some new features that are coming up in the next month or two. So first thing, very important, Word Warm-Ups Live Level 2 will be available in early September. That will contain 8 new sections. So if you're using Word Warm-Ups Live, that's a great new addition. Also, Word Warm-Ups Live students who are waiting for the teacher will now appear on the waiting list, which they haven't done before. Only Read Naturally Live and Read Naturally Live Espanol students would appear there. As I mentioned earlier, for single sign-on, we're adding Google, ClassLink, and Clever. Read Naturally Live vocabulary words will appear on the cold timing and practice screens. Currently, students have access to vocabulary words, obviously on the keywords step, but also in the read-along step and the quiz step, but now they will also be available on cold timing and practice. And then finally, we're bringing back the crossword puzzle activity that we used to have in the 1 Minute Reader app. 1 Minute Reader Live will now also include the crossword puzzle activity. So that's a fun new activity that promotes vocabulary. Okay, so a couple of screens for you for those of you that are interested in single sign-on. As I mentioned, ClassLink will be the first one that will be available soon in September. So you'll be able to quickly and easily import a ClassLink file to connect Read Live to your ClassLink implementation. Here are some screens from Word Warm-Ups Level 2. Again, there are 8 sections, and we've made some updates to not only, obviously, the access to this level, but also we've made some updates to some of the user interface elements. So this is Level 2 base words changed by suffixes. So it kind of looks like a blackboard. Okay, I want to remind everyone that we have a number of training resources on our website to train students at the beginning of the school year whenever they start to enter into the program. We have a set of students' guides to Read Live videos. I'll show you where you can find those. And then on our Read Live help page, we have a number of resources, including free online courses. And then we have public webinars like this one. You can email me for a private webinar, and then we have a number of recorded webinars as well. Let's take a look at the Read Live help page. You can access this from the Read Naturally website. Just go to the Read Live menu and select Read Live Help. And this is where you'll see a bunch of videos that goes into great detail about the functionality of all of our programs. On the right side of the screen on the Read Live Help page, you'll find those students' guides to the different programs, posters for students in English and Spanish for Read Naturally Live, free online courses for teachers, and other useful resources. So again, I do recommend, especially at the beginning of the school year, for you to kind of peruse through and see where your gaps are in terms of understanding the program, and do take advantage of the Read Live help page. I'm going to answer 1 or 2 questions that I see up here, and then I'm going to wrap up. So a question about the recording. I mentioned that students can record themselves. Where does the recording go? Let me show you very quickly. When a teacher logs in and she goes to her waiting list, there is a column called recording. And if there's a yes in that column, that means the student has left a recording for the teacher. And all the teacher has to do is click on the login button to listen to the recording and score the student's past timing asynchronously. And then finally, I'll answer one more question. Well, the question that people are still asking. That's a very important question, but I'll just remind people that you can watch this webinar again, because I'm going to be sending out an email tomorrow with a link to the recording, and you can watch it at that time. We also, by the way, always post recordings for all of our webinars that we do publicly. If you go to the training menu on the Read Naturally website and go to webinars, you'll find not only our current webinars, but also recordings of past webinars. So if you click on that link, there's all kinds of recorded webinars that you can view. You just have to click on the specific tile that you're interested in, and then look for the webinar that is of most interest to you. But again, a reminder that I will be sending out an email tomorrow with a link to the new webinar. Okay, I'm going to wrap up here. So bear with me here for 1 second. I want to thank you all for attending today. Feel free to share the recording that I'll be sending out to you tomorrow with anyone at your school or district. Also, before I let you go, if you could, please respond to the survey that will appear on your screen as you exit the webinar, so we can continue to improve this educational experience for all of you in the future. And in that survey, there will be a prompt for any future Read Live program enhancements that you'd like to see in the future. And we do take your feedback seriously. That's one reason why we're adding the particular features that we're adding. It's because we've heard from teachers and administrators that they wanted certain features and functions and programs to be built into Read Live, and then we put that on our roster of things to consider and implement in the future. So please do fill in that question in the survey. I would appreciate it. Thanks again, everyone. Have a wonderful day.